Hi, I'm Jerry Fletcher, and we're going to talk today about turning contacts into contracts. How to grow your consulting business. Here are the takeaways. First off, I'm going to give you a silver bullet, the one thing you have to know in order to build your business. Second, how the number of candles on your birthday cupcake changes the marketing that works for you. Third, some personal branding tips that will make your communications and you stand out from the crowd. Plus some information that will help you get in the door, plus using your wetware to do things like win them over, ask for referrals, and how to do marketing math. Let's start with the silver bullet. Who you know is important. What you know matters. But the thing that matters most is who trusts you. When I was speaking in South America, I discovered that the Spanish word for trust is confianza. It's sort of like confidence with a wow on the end. There and here, confianza or trust plus time equals success. In today's world, you have to trust yourself, your staff, your company, and your clients or customers. Everybody will tell you that in order to get the business, your prospect must know, like, and trust you. And that's true as far as it goes. In my view, that prospect must know, understand, and believe you before they trust you. And when they do, referrals will come. What are the components of trust? What is trust? At the heart of it is credibility. Can I believe you? But it takes other actions on your part to establish and maintain that credibility. You must be authentic. You have to prove your integrity. In simple terms, you have to be real, honest, and tell the story the same way every time. Building trust pays off. There's research that backs up that view. It was conducted by Xerox. It's a satisfaction survey, but Xerox went at it a little differently. You've all seen those cards that ask you to rate a service in a restaurant or other establishment from 1 to 5, where 1 is low and 5 is high, right? Here's what Xerox discovered by doing interviews with over 6,000 people about their answers. For starters, the beginning of the line starts below the graph. What they found is that people who put a 1 on those cards can be defined as terrorists. They will do anything in their power to keep other people from buying from you. They want you out of the business, and they are not particularly concerned about what they say or do to accomplish that objective. The 2, 3, and 4 section there, that was determined to be the zone of indifference. People that give this rating just don't really care. Your service was, for them, ho-hum. They won't intentionally try to sabotage you, but they won't send their family and friends to you either. They are indifferent. But when the line crosses 40%, customers become willing to recommend you. That strengthens as the line moves up the scale. At 60%, they intend to repurchase from you. At 80%, they will delay purchases from others for you to introduce products or service similar to what others already have in the market. The customers at the top of the scale literally become unpaid salespeople for you. They're raving fans. But here's the kicker. The difference between indifference and raving fans is a 600% increase in sales. Customers want to find firms that they trust enough to qualify as suppliers for life. Confianza. Trust plus time equals success. Trust is the single stratagem that will ensure your personal and corporate survival. It is the key perception that you want for yourself, your product or service, and your company. Trust is what builds businesses, careers, and lives of joy. But building trust is not always logical. Trust is counterintuitive. Looking at things short-term makes your short-term results go down. The best way, the absolute best way to be credible is to admit when you're not. Strangely enough, you have the most influence when you stop trying to influence. And the best way to get more closings is to stop closing. To gain control, you have to give it up. That is one of the secrets of the way marketing has gone in the last 5 years. To gain control, give it up. Over the years, I worked out a model that takes into account all the exasperating ways people try to market and sell. This is at the heart of it. Networking is dead center for every company. Now, does anyone have a suggestion for those major circles that wrap around it? They are speaking, teaching, and writing. Each can have a strong effect on building your business if you use them wisely. So, of course, what's the impact on prospects that occur in those overlaps? What happens there? Speaking and teaching bring familiarity. Teaching and writing let them see your experience. Speaking and writing let you display your understanding to a larger audience than you can reach one-on-one. And in today's world, you can use the internet and social media to your advantage in all those areas. That brings me to the shortcut. Every company or product or service starts by forging trust with people. People that joined with you to build the business, people that invested, people that became the first customers, people that referred you to others, people that make you a brand, not a newcomer. Every company or product or service starts by forging trust with people. Every company. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that a personal touch is the shortcut to trust. Let me say that again. A personal touch is the shortcut to trust. That's the second thing I want you to take away from today. This is a telephone. There are smart ones and dumb ones. Either can send and receive voice. If you pick up a telephone and call a customer, I guarantee that you will change their viewpoint about you. My ex once sent a letter to the president of a major cosmetics company about their operation at the local Macy's. She simply reported some questionable handling of merchandise. She was stunned when the president called her in person a week later to tell her exactly what they were going to do about it. To this day, she won't consider another brand. A personal touch is the shortcut to trust. Chris called me when, as he put it, his pay-per-click business went off a cliff. He was trying to find the best pricing, but suddenly people were staying away in droves. First, we put the telephone number back on his website. Then we encouraged people to call. We tested low prices versus higher prices. What we found was that folks buying at the lower prices needed a great deal more hand-holding, while those purchasing at the higher prices would call only to confirm his credentials. Either way, they needed that conversation to build enough trust to order. Chris tripled his business in a month and found that he kept clients 3 times longer. A personal touch is the shortcut to trust. The latest statistics I've seen in the online information business show that just about 60% of all prospects stop just short of making a purchase. This is what they call cart abandonment. And it's a major problem. There's a surefire way to get back up to 30% of those that abandon your shopping cart. According to Joe Troyer and Ben Atkins, you have to do 2 things. First, use a 2-step checkout so that you get their name, their email, and a phone before you ask for credit card data. Second, pick up a phone and call them. Ask them about the problem they're trying to solve. Tell them how your product can do that. Answer their questions. No hard sell, no upsells, no downsells, no cross-sells. Just 2 people establishing a relationship. Between 12 and 30% of those abandoned carts can be turned around and put back in line at the checkout. A personal touch is the shortcut to trust. The question is, will it scale? It will if you make it so. A caring human being that's calling that customer can make all the difference in the world. Does it need to be the owner? No. The power comes from the personal touch. A handwritten thank you note can make you millions. I was hired by the CEO of a firm to tune up his training division. Their sales were running well behind the previous year. I arrived at the division on their first day back from a trade show. They told me that 36 people had stopped by the booth and were interested in their programs. I asked who was writing the thank you notes. The division VP said, "We don't do that." He was convinced to do so when the CEO suggested he write the notes or pack your desk. A week later, I got a sheepish phone call from the VP. He was calling between planes at O'Hare. All he said was, "You were right." I'm on my way back from a meeting in Milwaukee with a company that told me that we were the only ones that followed up with a handwritten note after the conference. They signed a contract this morning for $800,000. I'm calling because I've been rerouted to Des Moines to meet with another firm. The troops put together a $400,000 proposal, and I'm going in to review it with the company in person. 2 thank you notes, $1.2 million in sales. The personal touch was the shortcut to trust. You can even use some of the new technology to deliver more of a personal touch. How many of you have LinkedIn accounts? How many of you have been told that you shouldn't connect with someone you haven't met in person? Some of you know that I'm known as a CRM magician. I start where the software stops, so I have to know what is available, what automated marketing program syncs with that CRM system, and how solid that relationship is. If I said no to connections in other parts of the world, I wouldn't know about the new products coming out. For instance, I was on a Skype call with Liam Austin, who runs a LinkedIn group for small businesses with north of 80,000 members in it. Liam, who lives in Sydney, Australia, was headed out to go surfing. We were talking about some articles he'd requested, and I was updating him on a software product in beta being developed by another LinkedIn contact in Sydney. Liam in turn told me about Autopilot, then a new software launching in San Francisco. Now, David Mackey, who was developing the product in Liam's backyard, told me about an automated marketing product out of Nova Scotia. And so it goes. Build the power of a personal touch into your responses to requests for connections or even profile views on LinkedIn. Don't just accept the connection. On the profile view, look at their profile. Send them an email that shows your interest in them and asks about their interest in you. Those that are really interested in connecting will respond. That's why I have contacts on every continent and know about developments in my chosen area of expertise worldwide. One last suggestion. The single most compelling form of media today is video. You can use it to get more of a personal touch. A 30-second video emailed to a prospect or a client is a powerful way to say you care. It can be developed and delivered in under 2 minutes. Every company or product or service starts by forging trust with people. The employees, the investors, the customers. Every company. A personal touch is your shortcut to trust. As Maya Angelou put it, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. I stopped counting successful new business, product, and service introductions at 207. Every business can be looked at on the standard dimensions of time and money. The problem is that inexperienced folks think it looks like this. The reality is that long before an introduction occurs, the spending has a heart-stopping run rate. For our purposes today, we can look at this as one way to identify what phase your practice is in. Trust, of course, can change the standard equation. What part of your business comes from referrals? Now, before we get into that, how do you define a referral? Well, here's the way I do it. It's a positive introduction to a prospect from someone you do not have a business development contract with. Note that I prefer a recommendation where the prospect is invited to lunch and the person who's making the recommendation does most of the talking. Now, I'm just there to sort of set the next meeting with the prospect and to add substantiation to the information being presented. My research indicates that the best way to tell what phase you're in is to take a realistic look at your rate of referrals. How many of you get under 30% of your business from referrals? As you might expect, you're in startup. If you get between 30 and 50%, you are in growth phase. If you're over 50%, puts you in the established phase. Let's talk about marketing that works by phase. I've been compiling this study for 25 years. Referrals are at the heart of marketing a successful consulting practice of any kind. I look at all the marketing aspects. I could parse this further, but the 6 items that stand out through all these phases are these. First, referrals. They increase in importance over time, as you can see. Either you get them or you don't grow. Period. Referrals are critical to building your business. The second item here is prior experience. It's shown second because it plays a role which decays only slightly over time. Remember I said what you know matters. It does. Longer than you might think. Notice that it increases through startup and growth and then decreases slightly in the established phase. Direct sales or distributor is here because this approach applies in situations where an expertise is being sold through strategic relationships, but is moving toward a fully independent consulting approach. This happens most frequently in the technology markets. Then too, direct sales happen more frequently in the startup phase, particularly when a consultant has a limited contact database. In other words, you turn to others and use their database to sell your services. Direct marketing used to mean direct mail to most people. Today, it incorporates email marketing, testing, auto dialers, autoresponders, and a raft of other technologies. The best way to define it is media directed to individuals designed to elicit immediate response, preferably purchase. Beginners try it and don't get great results. They go away from it as referrals kick in and come back to it later using experts. Networking declines over time. That doesn't mean it is less important than bringing in business. The numbers of people that you've met in the earliest phases, if properly contacted on an ongoing basis, will form the backbone of your referral sources. Then too, it is frequently the best way to determine who the next rainmaker will be for the firm or the group within the firm. Everything else is just that. Advertising, PR, trade shows, banners, signs, skywriting, you name it. This is why I developed Marketing Without Money. Consultants and small businesses don't usually have the margins for expensive media approaches, but as they grow and learn to use value-based pricing, the possibility increases. But by the time there are sufficient profits, they've usually learned to put their funds into the highest return investments. That means building perceived expertise via books, white papers, and speaking engagements. That means finding a way to deliver a more personal touch. What you want to do when you're trying to sell or market anything is have a conversation, not a commercial. The most commonly asked question in the USA is, what do you do? Whether you're networking for business or attending a neighborhood cocktail party, you need an answer that is part of the conversation, not the commercial. There's a way to answer that question which, if you work it out, can help you get more referrals, get indoors, and get to real sales more quickly. I call it 30-second marketing. Your objective is to have a conversation, and in doing so, figure out what to make of this new acquaintance. They could be the Lord High Poobah, or a middle manager on the way up, or just a passerby. You don't know. But you can find out in 30 seconds or less. An elevator speech will not do it. That's talking at someone. You want to have a conversation. I don't care if you're standing in the 9 items or less line, introducing yourself in a presentation, if you're at a board meeting, or just settling into a seat on the rubber chicken circuit. Offering a handshake and telling someone your name is only a beginning. There are 4 elements to the conversation. First, hook them. Get their interest. Give them pause. Make them want more. Second, hold them. Keep their interest. Tantalize them and sort them out at the same time by asking a question that incorporates the problem you solve for most of your customers. If they appear interested, they could be a prospect. Pitch them. Make your point. Tell them how you solved the problem for most folks. And then close it. Get their agreement to a next step. I'm going to show you an example. No, it's not in your industry, but it works even if you've never been around horses. Here we go. It starts when somebody says, "What do you do?" The response in this case is, "We trailer horses backwards." Huh? You know how horses can get skittish floating into a small dark space? Sure enough. Well, what we do is reduce the stress with side-opening trailers that allow your horse to load and travel in a scientifically proven more comfortable position. Really? Like to see one? I've been showing consultants, professionals, and entrepreneurs how to do this for going on 15 years. Just last week, I got an unsolicited email from a managing director of a technology firm that I just taught this technique. Here's what he said. "Thanks for helping us craft this message. I had a chance to try it out today with someone I've talked with before, and the reaction was very positive. They felt they had a better understanding of what we offer. Heck, they're even going to keep their eyes out for someone that might need our help, and I didn't even ask for that." You can be more memorable, and 30-second marketing can help get you in the door as well. This research confirms that the personal touch is critical for success for consultants. You have to make the connections. You have to network and garner the referrals and the recommendations. A principal in your organization must speak, write, and educate. Your website and your content marketing must display your expertise. Why? Buyers are looking for visible experts. They want your help to solve a high-impact, critical problem. A high-impact, critical problem. And they need you because they don't have the expertise in-house. Here are some additional insights on getting in the door. And of course, these are gained from about 25 years of study, same as the overall consultant study I showed you. Note that this is a recap of proactive prospecting, actions taken by the principals of a consultant or a professional organization linked to their success rates. When you combine the always and usually scores for recommendation, it goes to 84%. I like those odds. The joint score for referrals is just under 50%, and that's not bad either. But let's make sure we agree on the difference between a referral and a recommendation. A referral can be as simple as an email introduction, which is not the greatest way to begin a relationship. A recommendation, on the other hand, definitely means an in-person introduction, usually over lunch, and the introducer is doing most, if not all, the selling. You say as little as possible, and your recommender convinces the prospect to give your product or service a try. A contact off-site could be from speaking, a trade show, or an industry meeting. Because the prospect is more aware of you, it is relatively easy to get an appointment. But don't walk away from letters and phone calls. What about social media? Yeah, what about the elephant in the room? What about it? It is one way clients seek out experts. One way. It needs to be part of your marketing mix, but it is not the be-all and end-all of the media would have you believe. About 60% will look for you on social media, and over 80% will check out your website. Are you where trusted advisors are found? This study shows the power of LinkedIn. Here's how you can extend the reach of your online activity and build your business. Talk to them. Include a phone number on your website. Call some, particularly when they leave the website for no apparent reason. LinkedIn is the preferred social networking site for business-to-business folks. If you're going to be on it, look good. Find more prospects easily and get to know them by joining groups. Be specific in the information you provide. Label opinions. Don't be afraid to disagree if you can do it in a way that demonstrates an open mind. As soon as you can get the prospect out of the social media communication system and into direct communications, the better. That way you can begin to build the relationship and the trust needed to get to the sale. I can't say this any more clearly. Marketing is mass. Sales is in person. The top of the funnel is marketing. The bottom is sales. Here are 3 rules to move from contacts to contracts. Number 1, go where the money is. 70% of buyers view 4 or more pieces of content when making a considered purchase. Number 2, sell what they want to buy. 71% of buyers trust brands that provide useful info without trying to sell something. And number 3, do it again. 67% more leads are generated by B2B companies that create contents. The better you understand how your prospect moves through their purchase cycle, the easier it will be for you to sell them. Content can be prepared to move them from marketing to sales, citing things critical to them as they get closer to a purchase, and how you're differentiated can increase your speed of sale as well as the income per sale. Go where the money is. 2, sell what they want to buy. And 3, do it again. You can double your sales with simple follow-up and content that connects. Here's how content impacts some folks. There's hardware and software, and what I like to call the wetware. That's the 2+ pounds of ability above your shoulders. The wetware has some habits that you should be aware of. First, it forgets at an alarming rate. A scientist by the name of Dr. Ebbinghaus found that within 30 days, you remember less than 20% of what you're hearing right now. And the decay continues at the same rate. A few years later, a young researcher by the name of Sharp decided to confirm Dr. Ebbinghaus's findings. He did one thing different. Instead of using nonsense phrases, he used words that had meaning to the test subjects. There was still a decline in memory, but people recalled 58% after 30 days. But the rate of decline still kept on. In simple terms, people still forget. It just takes a little longer than we might have thought. Hubert Zilski, a market researcher for the advertising agency Foote Cone & Belding, figured out how to overcome this problem. He did 2 tests. In one, he ran ads monthly in select magazines and then surveyed the readers. In another, he mailed them the same ads on a monthly basis. In both cases, he found that the decay rate was just like the academic researchers had found. But by injecting another touch to the audience at monthly intervals, the recall went up over time. Each touch generated another jump in this sort of sawtooth pattern. Over time, it created what's known as the exposure rate effect. That is true regardless of the kind of touch. Ad, letter, postcard, phone call, commercial, email, you name it. You need to touch any prospect or referral source at least once a month to stay in their memory. So, when and how do you ask for referrals? Here's a graph of how most consulting sales work out. Early on, you're putting more and more sales time in until you get the job. Then you shift into implementation mode, and that time picks up until you finish the job. You take a breather, and then you start the cycle all over. It's like being on a roller coaster. Market, 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 work, work, work. Market, market, market. Do it again. So when do you ask for referrals? The best time is when the contract is signed and before you've done anything else. They will never know, like, and trust you as much or as well as they do at that moment. The next best time is when you finish the project. The warm glow of problem solving is a great time, and anytime your business needs a stimulus is also a good time to ask. You want non-stop referrals? You're going to have to generate them. So here are some quick tips that will help you do that. First, define your ideal client. Do this in depth. You want to understand them both demographically and psychographically. You want to understand how they get from where they are through the entire process of buying. You need to understand exactly what triggers their next step, their agreement to take another step with you, particularly in the sales situation, because if you're not with them, they aren't going to stay with you. Another way to help here is to find their groups. The people you need belong to one or more groups. What you have to do is isolate which of those groups they belong to. For instance, if you're looking for CFOs, you're going to find a group of them on LinkedIn. They're also going to probably be a member of some kind of trade association. One of the things that I find amazing is when you simply ask the question of someone that you know is in the right group, well, do you belong to any associations, or are you part of any group of folks that meet regularly to talk about the kinds of similar problems you might have? Pretty often you're going to get an answer that will direct you where to go. Once you find out what that association or group is, you need to identify key referral sources. Going into a group, many times the best thing you can do is to sit down with the person who's in charge of getting new members for that group and tell them exactly the kind of person that you're looking for and why. Very quickly, you can identify key referral sources. Then it's up to you to make sure that you can comfortably relate to them. So practice relational networking. Make sure that you can be helpful to them when you ask them to be helpful to you. And in fact, try to be helpful to them well before you ask them for any. Although sometimes in the first meeting, simply identifying what you're trying to do will make them give you the information you need. You need to use some sort of contact management software as well. That way you can keep track of every single person that you meet. Now, don't think you can do this from memory. You can't. It's been proven that most of us cannot carry more than 7 items in our mind at one time. Then you want to have conversations, not commercials. That means you practice 30-second marketing. You simplify what it is that you do and how you do it so that you're more memorable, and you make it easier for those people that you're talking to, your referral sources, to explain what it is that you do to people that might be interested in looking to you for a solution. Have conversations, not commercials. And last but not least, provide information that is useful, content. Sharing your expertise using content is the way that you can prove to them that you're really interested in helping them. You need to be just as systematic with sales as you are with marketing. You have to have an objective. You need to know what you're trying to do with this particular organization or person within an organization before you sit down in front of them, before you shake their hand. You need to think it through before that meeting begins. You have to stick to business. This is not a social call. It's about learning more about the problem and determining how you, your product or service may be of help. It's about listening rather than spieling. Ask questions. I don't mean yes or no kinds of questions. Ask open-ended questions like, what single thing do you think is the biggest contributor to the problem? Ask the question which that answer generates, and the next, and so on, until you see it the way they do. Then, if you have a solution, tell your story. Tell them how your product or service can be of help. Let them know that you'll be happy to put it in writing. Pave the way for a value-based proposal that provides 3 options. The first is a project that solves the problem as presented. The second includes Project 1 and adds an engagement that gets at the root causes of the problem. The third option includes 1 and 2, then provides access to you, your staff, and your capabilities over an extended period of time. Next, get agreement to continue the dialogue if you haven't reached the proposal phase. Get agreement to review the proposal or present to others involved if you have gotten that far. Generally, consultants run into complex sales. Over the years, I've found there are only 4 outcomes in a complex sales situation. No sale. Obviously, there's no sale. There's nothing there. Nothing's going to happen. Then we get to see more. Now, we've all run into this guy. Seymour always needs just a little more information. Seymour wants to wait for the next quarter's pricing. Seymour isn't quite ready because he's waiting for a signal from his boss. Seymours will drive you crazy. Sometimes it's better to go around them. Sometimes you simply need to stop spending personal time with them. Sometimes you wait for them to call you for a meeting and insist that the controller of the finances for the project be in the room if you will meet with them. The next thing that can happen in a complex sale is an advance. This is a meeting where you get the prospect to open up about the problem, the budget, the politics, any and all the information you need to build a proposal, a presentation, and a way to get to the contract. The fourth possibility is commitment. This is agreement in principle. You may have some T's to cross or some I's to dot, but the contract is yours. Coming out of every meeting, every sales meeting, you need to be definite. Get a definite no or a definite yes. And if you don't get either, have a definite plan for going forward. I promised that I'd give you a quick demonstration of marketing math, so here goes. We'll compare the results generated by two salespeople who both had all the marketing and sales tools options available to them. The options included all the usual suspects. The trust tools were there, networking and speaking and teaching and writing, a slew of online stuff, and a number of traditional ways to reach out to prospects. John is a typical salesperson. He considers prospecting beneath him. He expects to be given leads to close. Now, granted, he is a crackerjack relationship builder, but he's not a marketer. John found 10 prospects. He closed 60% for 6 sales. That's a very high close rate, by the way. The very best business-to-business salespeople seldom, if ever, surmount a 50% close rate. In any case, John sold 6 folks at an average sale value of $10,000 for a total revenue of $60,000. And that's not bad, but nowhere near what you can deliver if you use the tools available. Jack networked to 17 prospects. His magazine article and speaking generated 11 prospects. His blog generated another 6 prospects. He did a direct mailing that netted 8 more. He made evening phone calls that got 7. And he did a couple of webinars where he qualified 9. Jack got 58 qualified prospects. Now, his closing ratio was only 25%, but with all of those qualified prospects, 25% was 14 sales. His total revenue was $140,000. If we could increase Jack's closing rate by just 5%, that's not a big increase, he would close 17 sales for revenues of $170,000. A 10% increase would put him at 20 sales and $200,000. That is how you change contacts to contracts. Take advantage of all of those marketing and sales tools that are available. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here with you today.